Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! A few years back, I was stuck in a dead-end job at a big corporation. Feel like just another cog in a machine. The work was mind-numbing, the hours were long, and the pay was barely enough to keep me afloat. I knew I had to make a change, but I wasn't sure how. Then one day, I stumbled across an online course about starting your own consulting business. It was like a light bulb went off in my head. I had always been good at problem solving and helping others, so why not turn that into a career? I spent every spare moments learning, planning, and slowly building up a client base on the side. It wasn't easy. There were plenty of late nights, moments of doubts, and times when I wondered if I was making a huge mistake. But slowly things started to come together. I quit my job, took the plunge, and went all in on my new venture. At first, I worked from home, but as my business grew, I realized I needed a more professional space to meet clients. That's when I found this little office. It was perfect, affordable, in a good location, and it even came with a nice desk left behind by the previous tenant. I was thrilled to have a real workspace, somewhere I could focus and feel like a proper business owner. Little did I know that my new office would come with its own set of unexpected challenges. Like the day those two walked in, I was sitting at my desk working on a proposal for a new client, when suddenly my door burst open. A couple strode in like they owned the place, not even bothering to knock, and I looked up startled and confused. Can I help you? The woman, who I will call Karen because, well, you'll see why, marched up to my desk with a determined look on her face. "We're here to pay for the event venue. Where is the manager?" I blinked, trying to process what was happening. "I'm sorry, but I think you've got the wrong office. I'm just a tenant here. I don't work for the building or the event venue." Karen's husband stood behind her, looking uncomfortable but not saying anything. "There's a card on the reception desk with a phone number you need to call. The manager doesn't work in this office anymore." I pointed to the card, hoping they'd take the hint and leave. Karen just stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "But we need to pay. Now." "I understand, but I can't help you. You really need to call that number." I stood up and ushered them towards the door, trying to be polite but firm. They finally left, and I shut the door behind them, making sure to lock it this time. I sighed, shook my head, and went back to my work. Not 5 minutes later, I heard the doorknob rattle. Then came the knocking. Soft at first, then louder and more insistent. I tried to ignore it, but it just kept going. Finally, realizing they weren't going to give up, I got up and opened the door. Karen was back, looking even more determined than before. Her husband hovered behind her, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. "Listen, we really need to pay for the venue. Where is the manager?" I took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay calm. As I said before, I don't work for the building or the event venue. I'm just renting this office for my own business. You need to call the number on that card. "But I need to pay here." "I understand that, but I'm not the person you need to pay. I can't help you." "But I need to pay here." This went on for what felt like an eternity. No matter what I said, she just kept repeating the same thing over and over. I was starting to feel like I was in some kind of bizarre nightmare. Finally, in a moment of desperation, I decided to try a different approach. "Look, if you give me your money, I'll just spend it on whiskey. It won't solve your problem at all." That seemed to finally break through. Karen's eyes widened, and she took a step back. "Well, I never. How unprofessional." "I'm not being unprofessional because I don't work here. That's what I've been trying to tell you this whole time." Karen's husband finally spoke up, gently tugging on her arm. "Come on, honey. Let's just call a number and sort this out." Karen glared at me one last time before stomping off, her husband trailing behind her. I closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it, letting out a long breath. The next day, I told the building manager about what happened. She apologized profusely and promised to put up a sign to prevent future confusion. True to her word, the big red sign appeared on my door the very next day, clearly stating that this was a private office and not the management office. I thought that would be the end of it, but a week later I got a surprise visit from the manager. She had a mischievous grin on her face. She says, "You'll never guess what happened." Oh no. Did Karen come back? Even better. She called to complain about the rude, unprofessional drunk in the office. Said we shouldn't be letting alcoholics rent space here. I couldn't help but laugh. You're kidding. What did you tell her? I explained that you were a respectable business owner who had simply been trying to get her to leave you alone. Then I suggested that in the future she should try knocking and reading signs before barging into private offices. We both had a good laugh about it. As she was leaving, the manager turned back to me with a wink. Oh, and by the way, if you ever do decide to spend your office rent on whiskey, let me know. I might join you for a glass. From that day on, I never had another problem with unexpected visitors. But every now and then, when I'm working late in my little office, I chuckle to myself, remembering the day I accidentally convinced a stranger I was an alcoholic just to get some peace and quiet. It's not exactly how I imagined my business career going, but hey, at least it makes for a good story. My wife and I decided to treat ourselves to a nice outdoor jacuzzi. We've been saving up for years, working extra hours and cutting back on luxuries, and finally, after what felt like forever, we had enough to make our backyard dreams come true. We live in a quiet neighborhood, the kind where everyone knows everyone else's business, and it's mostly nice, but sometimes it can be a bit much. Anyway, we got the jacuzzi installed last week, and it's been amazing. Nothing beats coming home after a long day at work and soaking in that warm, bubbly water. Everything was great until yesterday. I was home alone with our 5-year-old daughter Ruby. My wife was out of town for a work conference, so it was just the two of us. We were having a nice quiet afternoon in the backyard. Ruby was playing with her dolls on a patio while I relaxed in the jacuzzi. That's when I heard it. The unmistakable sound of our gate creaking open. I looked up, expecting to see my wife home early or maybe a neighbor stopping by. Instead, I saw her, the woman who would turn our peaceful day into a nightmare. She marched into our backyard like she owned the place. I did not recognize her, but she had that look. You know the one. Excuse me, can I help you? She ignored me completely and walked straight up to the jacuzzi, eyeing it like a lioness stalking her prey. So this is a new jacuzzi everyone's been talking about. It's about time someone in this neighborhood got one. I'm sorry, but who are you? This is private property. Oh, don't be so uptight. I'm Karen. I live down the street. I've been wanting to try out a jacuzzi for ages. Without warning, she started taking off her shoes. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This isn't a public pool. Don't be ridiculous. It's big enough for both of us. Besides, it's so hot today, you can't expect me to just look at it and not use it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I got out of the jacuzzi, grabbing a towel to wrap around myself. Look, I don't know you, and I certainly didn't invite you here. Please leave now or I'll have to call the police. Karen scoffing. The police? For what? Being neighborly? You're overreacting. Overreacting? You're trespassing. Oh, please, don't be so dramatic. We're neighbors. Neighbors share things. We are not neighbors. I've never seen you before in my life. Now, for the last time, please leave. I could see Karen getting more and more agitated. Her face was turning red and she was clenching her fists. That's when Ruby, bless her heart, decided to pipe up. Daddy, who's that lady? Why is she yelling? Karen's head snapped towards Ruby, and I swear I saw a glint in her eye that made my blood run cold. Oh, aren't you adorable? What's your name, sweetie? Before I could stop her, Ruby answered. I'm Ruby. I'm 5 years old. Ruby? That's such a pretty name. You know what, Ruby? Your daddy is being very mean to me. He won't let me use a jacuzzi even though I'm very hot and tired. Don't you think that's mean? I couldn't believe she was trying to manipulate my daughter against me. That's enough. Ruby, go inside now. Karen, you need to leave immediately. Karen says to Ruby, see how mean he's being? You don't want to stay with someone so mean, do you? Why don't you come with me? I have a nice pool at my house you can play in. That was it. I'd had enough. I grabbed my phone and started dialing 911. Ruby, inside, now. And you, get off my property before the police get here. You're calling the police? On me? For what? Being nice to your daughter? You know what? I am doing her a favor. And then, in a move I still can't believe happened, Karen lunged forward and grabbed Ruby's arm. Come on, sweetie. Let's go somewhere nicer where we can swim. Ruby started crying and I dropped my phone, rushing towards them, but Karen was quicker than I expected. She scooped up Ruby and started running towards the gate. Hey, stop! Let go of my daughter! I chased after her, my heart pounding in my chest. Karen was surprisingly fast for someone in flip flops. She made it out of our yard and was halfway down the street before I caught up to her. Let her go! Help! Someone help! She's taking my daughter! Neighbors started coming out of their houses attracted by the commotion. Karen was yelling too, telling everyone that I was a bad guy, that she was rescuing Ruby from me. Help! This man is trying to take this child! Someone call the police! I couldn't believe it. She was trying to make it look like I was a kidnapper. Thankfully, our actual neighbors knew me and Ruby. Just as I thought things couldn't get any crazier, I heard sirens. Apparently, when I dropped my phone, the 911 operator had heard enough to send a patrol car. The police car screeched to a halt next to us, and two officers jumped out. Everyone freeze! What's going on here? Karen immediately put on her best damsel in distress act. Officer, thank goodness you're here. This man was trying to abduct this little girl. What? No, she's my daughter. This woman came into my yard and grabbed her. Ruby, still crying, Daddy, I want my daddy. The officers looked between us, clearly trying to make sense of the situation. One of them approached Ruby gently. Hey there, sweetheart. Can you tell me who this man is? Ruby, sniffling. That's my daddy. The mean lady took me. The officer nodded and turned to his partner. I think we've got our answer. Karen's face went pale. She tried to backpedal, but it was too late. No, you don't understand. I was trying to help her. He wouldn't let me use his jacuzzi. Ma'am, are you saying you took his child because you weren't allowed to use someone's private property? Well, when you put it like that, it sounds bad. Ma'am, please put the child down and put your hands behind your back. You are under arrest for attempted kidnapping and trespassing. As the officers handcuffed Karen, I scooped up Ruby, holding her tight. She was still crying, but she was safe. This is ridiculous. I demand to speak to your supervisor. You can't arrest me. Do you know who I am? Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. As I put Karen in the back of the patrol car, one of the officers came over to take my statement. I told him everything, from her entering our yard to her grabbing Ruby. He shook his head in disbelief. I've seen some crazy things, but this takes the cake. We'll need you to come down to the station to make a formal statement. And sir, you might want to consider pressing charges. Oh, believe me, I will. After the police left, taking Karen with them, our neighbors crowded around, offering support and making sure Ruby was okay. One of them brought over some cookies for Ruby, which immediately brightened her mood. The neighbor says, I always knew there was something off about that woman. She moved in a few months ago and has been nothing but trouble. Always complaining about noise, demanding to use people's pools. But this is a new low. I thanked everyone for their help and took Ruby inside. She was still a bit shaken, but kids are resilient. By bedtime, she was already asking when she could go in the jacuzzi again. Karen, as it turned out, had a history of entitled behavior and minor run-ins with the law, but this was her first felony offense. The judge wasn't impressed with her excuses about just trying to be neighborly and teaching a lesson about sharing. In the end, Karen was sentenced to 5 years in prison for attempted kidnapping with additional time for trespassing and endangering a minor. She was also ordered to undergo psychological evaluation and treatment. The icing on the cake? She was required to pay for professional counseling for Ruby. As for us, we installed a better security system and a taller fence around our yard. Ruby's doing well, though she's a bit more cautious around strangers now. And me, well, I've learned to always lock the gate, even in a nice neighborhood. Oh, and that jacuzzi? We still love it. But now, when we are soaking in it, we always have one eye on the gate, just in case. I'm a college student trying to make ends meet while juggling classes and a part-time job at a local coffee shop. My name is not important, but what's important is that I'm always on the lookout for ways to earn some extra cash. You know how it is. Textbooks don't buy themselves, and ramen gets old after a while. So there I was minding my own business during my shift at the coffee shop when my coworker Jess comes up to me with this proposition. She's like, hey, I've got a friend who needs a dog sitter for about a week. You interested? Maybe. What's the deal? She's going out of town and needs someone to stay at her place to watch her dog. Her dog's got anxiety issues, so it can't be left alone for long. Now, I'm not exactly a dog expert, but I've had pets before and I'm good with animals. Plus, the idea of making some extra money sounded pretty sweet. So, I asked for more details. How much is she offering? She didn't say. You would have to talk to her about that. But hey, it's a nice house, and you'll get to stay there for free. Free lodging and some cash sounded good to me. So I told Jess to give her friend my number. Later that day, I got a call from this woman. Let's call her Karen because, well, you'll see why. Hi, this is Karen. Just gave me your number about dog sitting. Yeah, that's right. I heard you need someone for about a week. 6 days, actually. Can you do it? Sure, I think I can manage that. What are you thinking for payment? Oh, I don't know. What do you usually charge? Now, I've never actually done this before, but I didn't want to seem inexperienced. So I threw out a number that seemed fair. How about $20 a day? That sounds reasonable. So $120 for the 6 days? Yeah, that's right. Great. I'll give you the details when you come over. So we set up a time for me to come check out her place and meet the dog. When I got there, I realized this wasn't just a simple dog sitting gig. The house was nice, sure, but it was also packed with plans, inside and out, and Karen had a whole list of instructions for taking care of them. Oh, and while you're here, you'll need to water all the plants. I've got a schedule written down for you. Okay, that wasn't mentioned before. It's not a big deal. You'll be here anyway, right? I should have spoken up then, but I didn't want to lose a job, so I just nodded and listened as she went on about her dog's special needs, the feeding schedule, and the million other little things. Fast forward to day 3 of my stay. I'm juggling my online classes, taking care of this high maintenance dog, and playing botanist to Karen's small jungle. It's not exactly the easy money I was hoping for, but hey, $120 is $120, right? Wrong. I'm in the middle of a Zoom lecture when my phone buzzes. It's a text from Karen. Hi, hope everything's going well. Quick question. Can you Venmo me $80 from what I gave you? I've been thinking about it and I feel like I'm overcharging you. I had to read that message twice because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Overcharging me? For what? The privilege of being her unpaid gardener? I took a deep breath before replying. I'm sorry, but I don't understand. We agreed on $20 per day for 6 days. That's $120 total. Yes, but you're staying in my house. You don't have to commute, and my place is nicer than yours. I think $40 for the 6 days is more than fair. I was starting to get angry. I've been busting my butt taking care of her high maintenance dog and her small garden, and she had the nerve to ask for money back? No way. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. We had an agreement, and I'm doing more work than just dog sitting. I'm also taking care of all your plans, which wasn't part of the original deal. Don't be ungrateful. I'm letting you stay in my house for free. You should be thanking me for the opportunity. I brought my own food, and your house doesn't even have air conditioning. Plus, I am doing extra work with the plants. The $20 per day is more than fair. Fine. If that's how you want to be, I won't hire you again. Good luck finding another job that pays as well for so little work. Good luck finding a cheaper sitter who'll also be your personal gardener. After that, I didn't hear from Karen again. I finished out the 6 days, took care of the dog and the plants, and left the house exactly as I found it. Part of me wanted to be pity, maybe forget to water a plant or two, but I'm not that kind of person. I did the job I was hired to do and I did it well. When I got back to work, Jess asked me how the dog sitting went. I was tempted to spill everything, but I didn't want to cause drama at work, so I just shrugged and said it was fine. But here is where it gets interesting. A few weeks later, Jess comes up to me at work looking uncomfortable. Hey, I heard you had some issues with Karen. Oh, what did she say? She told me you were rude and ungrateful, and that you tried to overcharge her for dog sitting. I couldn't help but laugh. I pulled out my phone and showed Jess the text messages from Karen. Here's what really happened. Your friend tried to take back most of the money we agreed on, and then called me ungrateful when I refused. Jess's eyes widened as she read through the messages. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she was like this. It's not your fault. You didn't know. I can't believe she lied to me like that. I'm going to have a serious talk with her. I shrugged, not wanting to cause more drama. Do what you think is right. I just wanted you to know the truth. A few days later, Jess came back to me with an update. I talked to Karen. She tried to deny everything at first, but when I mentioned the text messages, she finally admitted what she did. She's really embarrassed and wants to apologize to you. Thanks, but I don't need an apology. I just want to put this whole thing behind me. I understand, Dan. Just so you know, I've told all our mutual friends about what happened. None of us will be asking her for favors or helping her out anymore. I have to admit, hearing that gave me a little satisfaction. Karen might have thought that she could take advantage of me, but in the end, her entitlement cost her a lot more than $80. She lost the trust and respect of her friends and probably any chance of finding a decent dog sitter in the future.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.